Perfect. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا المرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. I'm sorry, I'm just starting in Arabic. كل عام وانتم بخير يا
That's fine. I understand it.
Excuse me?
No, I was saying I totally understand it.
Okay.
Nice.
All right. Thank you for making the time, audience, guests. This is my first experience, so there's definitely a lot of glitches that are going to happen. So let's just be patient a bit. Now, what I'm trying to get out of this is shed some light on what's happening with retail, e-commerce, basically having people as of starting from US, we have people who's the CEO and founder of Beta, which is kind of a new concept of retail as a service. Yifang coming in from China, lockdown right now, I guess in the US, but it's been pretty much active and kind of investing a lot into e-commerce. We'll be talking a lot about what's happening in China today. And then we have Amr, CEO and founder of ExpandCart, basically based out of Egypt, serving the Middle East, Shopify-like platform. Understand he's not the only one, but and just our full disclosure is that Beta and ExpandCart are portfolio companies of Graphene Ventures. So aside from actually trying to promote the companies that we're investing in and supporting them, it's only also, I guess they should shed some light just to, and audience would be able to decide in the end whether those companies are the best on the market or where we believe they're the best, but we'll get your feedback later. So we'll start with Jibu being the closest here. Beta, and obviously it's a retail concept. You depend a lot on foot traffic to the stores, and at the same time, the stores has been locked. I mean, two aspects here. Like, as a founder for a company at this point, what do you do, and how did this closure impact Beta? And then we'll basically continue talking about other stuff as well.
Sure. Thanks for inviting me. Assalamu alaikum. So, you know, we were heavily impacted by COVID. You know, here in the early days of March, we made the decision to close our stores probably about 3 days before most of the country's non-essential retailers ended up closing. And, you know, we have a business model that's very specific to physical stores. So the retail as a service model, just in brief, is a model where instead of buying products at wholesale and then marking them up and reselling them to customers at a higher price, brands rent space inside of our stores and give them 100% of the sales that they generate through the store itself. So when this hit, we basically went into a state of no revenue at all. We're not a direct-to-consumer brand. We don't sell products on our website as our primary business model. And so this hit us very, very hard, and we ended up really taking a lot of proactive steps to protect our business, ensure it can survive over the last, you know, now almost 7 weeks. That included, you know, everything from, I mean, we did everything you could imagine, raising new capital, laying off people, furloughing our retail stores, we stopped paying rent. We've taken a lot of steps to get through this, but you know, there's starting to be a light at the end of the tunnel. We're just last Friday, we reopened a couple of our stores. We also have a global business. We have a store in Dubai with our partner, Shalhoub Group, which just opened last weekend. We've got a couple stores that are launching in Tokyo at the end of the summer. And so, you know, overall, I think we're starting to see things come back to life again, and I'm very, very excited about the future here. But it's definitely been a pretty difficult, you know, 2-month stretch. Nabil, you're on mute.
Yeah, I've muted because of the echo. So I'm keeping just muting the ones not talking, and it would be good because we keep echoing ourselves on the broadcast to YouTube. All right. So Ivan, China and what's happening so far. Obviously, this has hit China first.
Yeah.
And how did it impact retail, traditional retail, before we get into the e-commerce side?
hmm So China started the lockdown, like I think January the 23rd, late January, and it lasted until early April. So back then, that 2 months, nobody went out. Everybody stayed at home. And after like early April till now, like a month and a half, people started to go out. But I would say the retail space is only like 50% capacity back. And because like people didn't work for 3 months, and a lot of like companies, they lost their export orders. So people started to consume less. That's going to be a big problem for China right now. I think it's going to take a really long time to fully recover, which might be even more than 1 year. So meanwhile, we're going to see a lot of so for the factories, previously Chinese economy were mostly based on exports. But now, because like all the, I think a lot of them, they have the orders until August. But after August, it's only domestic orders. No like US companies, Japanese companies, European companies, no like overseas orders. So they started to laying off people. And when that started to happen, people are earning less money. And so I do think it's going to be a big problem. But in the other way, I think the Chinese central bank is going to loosen the credit, which will boost the consumption and boost like infrastructure in China. So we'll see how that goes.
Okay. I'm going back to you and understanding what's happening in the Middle East. Like there has been lockdown. There actually has been a very strict curfew in Saudi and UAE, I believe, to some level in somewhere in Egypt. And your model is completely online. You're trying to enable traditional traders to come online. What have you been seeing in your end and the region, and just generally speaking?
Yeah. So exactly, what's happening in the Middle East is no different than other countries. So as you mentioned, there's a strict curfew in most of the countries like Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Kuwait, UAE, and other countries too. So with that happening, and people still wants to buy their essential needs, and also non-essential needs that they usually want to buy. So with retail shops, offline retail closed, and malls also closed, so people started to pivot to online shopping, and that's what we have been seeing in the Middle East, and it's no different than other countries. Also, we have seen similar statistics in the US, Italy, and France. So I think people are pivoting to online shopping right now. Of course, like people are mostly buying their essential needs. So like essential products like groceries, FMCG goods, food, something like those products are growing so fast with online sales. Because people usually need them like in their day-to-day life. Other than also, of course, other products like consumer electronics, furniture, the people used to maybe buy from malls and offline retails that are now out of the picture. So they are trying to compensate that by shopping online. At the same time, with people also staying at home longer times, so they are trying to buy more products that makes their life at home easier and more efficient, including like as I mentioned, furniture, home appliances, also sport, like personal trainings and sports products that they can use at home, and so on. So we have seen like a huge growth in online retail. As the folks said, yes, there is of course like less power in purchase power generally, but this like remaining purchase power is pivoted more to online sales, which means that having an e-commerce store, an online e-commerce store, is no longer optional. It should be treated as one of the main selling channels. Even if you have a retail shop, you will definitely want to have your e-commerce store right now. Also, as they mentioned, because some of the youth and like workers in general lost, some of them lost their jobs, so they are trying to compensate this by building online projects, like building an online store, trying to sell products using models like drop shipping, and also using local product sourcing, and maybe homemade products also. So those kinds of youth products, they boost personal profits for them, supporting them in this period. And this, we felt that this is one of our responsibilities toward the community, that we have to support everybody to build their online store, retailers, entrepreneurs, and anyone that wants to continue his business online. So that's the picture that we are seeing here in the Middle East currently. And because of that, of course, online sales and GMV for merchants on our platform is almost doubling every month in the past couple of months. And we believe, based on this like statistics, that this growth will continue with the same momentum, like for at least 8 to 9 months. And then afterwards, e-commerce industry in general will remain growing steadily for at least 5-fold. So I would say that this period is challenging, but technology will help make it easier for people to compensate what's happening, and that's why everybody should be thinking to have his online store to boost his business.
All right, thank you. I'll probably get back to I'll get back to Vibu. And in terms of most of your, basically the store visitors today are small and medium businesses, startups basically. And is it true to say that? And if yes, how are you basically expecting that this is going to keep moving forward? Are those guys going to keep growing? Some of them are going to go bankrupt. This is definitely going to have an impact on beta. So what's your plan? I know California have started today. I know that some of the stores of beta in Houston or in Texas just opened last week. Tell us what's happening. How do you see it going forward? And what's happening actually? Give us an update, obviously. You are one of the major examples of what we are thinking, how whether retail is going to come back or not, whether people would love to go to stores or not.
Yeah, I think in many ways, this situation is just accelerating the decline of the traditional model and compressing. You've heard this a lot, this digital transformation being compressed from years into weeks or months. And I think for retail in particular, that's really, really acute. And there's a lot of reasons to believe that the traditional model of retail actually really can't see it through a transition like this. I think for one, vendors, and especially vendors to the big box stores, department stores, are not going to trust those relationships any longer, right? They've seen it in the past, historically, when a retailer is starting to prepare for bankruptcy, one of the first things they do is stop making payments on the inventory that they bought. And they have these net 90 terms where they don't have to pay for 3 months, 6 months, and sometimes, and in many cases, those vendors never get paid. So actually, this is something we've been hearing a lot from our vendors and our brands that we work with. From some of the largest brands in the country have called us and told us, We're not sure if we should be doing big box retail anymore. And I think aside from the payment terms and not getting not getting paid for inventory, they also have concerns about whether or not their traditional retail environment can keep shoppers safe. And as you know, we've done a lot of research on what it takes to have a safe store experience in this time. And I think there's two parts of it. There's the communication aspect. How do you ensure that people know what you're doing? And then the second thing is actually having safe practices. And I could go on at length on how we're doing that. But a lot of that safety comes from having very intentional visits to the store, assisted by somebody who's going to walk you through, be aware of everything that you're interacting with, touching, putting your hands on, breathing on, being able to sanitize that path, that critical path. We've been turning on stores, and we've had appointment booking for a long time, but you can now book an appointment and have the entire store to yourself. That's the kind of thing that a small retailer like us can actually roll out in these times. It's very, very hard for a big box retailer to do. And we've already started doing that here in Texas. I'm actually sitting in Houston right now, and I visited our store on Monday this week, and you can see there's it really makes a difference to have that isolated store where everyone is there's a both the customer and the associate are wearing a mask. They're respecting social distancing. We're guiding them through a pre-planned route through the store. And there's a one-to-one relationship between every person that's in the store and the person helping them out. Those things, I think, can give the vendors a lot of comfort. And my guess is coming out of this, you're going to see a period of time where everyone's a little skeptical about physical retail, and I think they're right to be skeptical. But when things return, I think you're going to see a lot of brands flocking to models like ours, where, again, small, protect the safety of everybody involved, have a business model where your inventory is going to get paid for. And I think also, us and a lot of other small retailers are able to be more agile and think on our feet as things change. We don't know where this is going. And you can really see that over the last couple of months. I think the best in class retailers and the ones that are most forward thinking and innovative, I think companies like ours, were out in front delivering really innovative solutions during this time that most big retailers probably are going to take 3, 4, 5, 6 months to deliver. As an example, we delivered virtual appointments pretty much the week that we closed our stores. So that allowed our customers online to book an appointment and actually get real live video advice and a demonstration from one of our store staff without having to go to the store. We're shipping this project on Monday called ShopSafely. .co, and it's a repository, and we've scanned hundreds of retailers' sanitation policies and procedures, and we scored all of them on about 24 different factors on how safe you should feel shopping in the store. We did that so that we could build a playbook for safe shopping, and that's the sort of thing I just don't think that most retailers are going to be able to deliver on unless they've already been operating for the last couple of years in this first principles mode, which I think is one of the most important things to how we've built our business. So I don't foresee the long-term effect here being any different than it already was. I just think that the long-term has been pushed up by 2 or 3 years. You are still on mute.
I'm basically the back end engineer, the production manager, and the janitor. It's Ramadan, we're fasting. Otherwise, I'd probably just circulate some coffee as well. I actually want to continue with you on Dubai. You actually told me something last month when they opened up. They had a week open in Dubai Mall, and that was actually giving you some indications of what can happen once everybody goes back to basically not normal life, but at least once the malls are open again.
Yep. So there was a short period of time between Dubai Mall closing and then reopening and then reclosing again. But there was when people felt safe, I think we had some of our best days ever in terms of conversion, not necessarily in terms of traffic, but in terms of conversion in the store. And in fact, that just happened again in our Austin store. So I think I want to say Tuesday was our best day since the holidays in Austin. And we delivered that in terms of GMV, and we delivered that GMV in the store with probably 1/10 of the typical traffic. So there are fewer people, but people are coming in with tons of intention. They're not window shopping. They know what they want. They know what they want to see. And if they're going to make that journey out of the house, they're really ready to get involved. So those are the small things that start to, I think, build a case that there is purchasing power that's being held back right now, and it's going to be delivered through the back half of the year. And I think it's okay for stores to lose that window shopping. Those folks that are coming for dinner at the mall and then they just kind of stop by but don't buy anything. That traffic historically has not been, it's not very lucrative traffic. So, yes, lower traffic, but yes, higher conversion. If that's the environment we're walking into, I think things are going to be okay. You're on mute again.
I clicked on my name, but not on unmute. I need to get used to this. Ivan, I'll actually echo what I was asking Vibo about when China reopened. So the numbers for luxury stores. So I remember that Hermes in China had like one of their best days when they reopened again. Do you see something similar? So that's one side of the question. And the other part is, tell us more about the e-commerce in China.
Yeah, so for the first question, I think luxury goods, we need to differentiate them in different categories. So there are 2 points. Point one is that the ultra luxury like Acme's is still like very solid because all these like Federal Reserve, all the central banks putting money into the market, most of the money goes to the rich community. And so that buying power is still there. So I think the one you're talking about is the Acme store newly opened in Guangzhou. And it did have a phenomenal sales figure. But other categories, for example, like lipsticks, like cosmetics, it went down because people are not going out. So they don't need all those stuffs. And also like not the ultra luxury, but like affordable luxury, like, Burberry, and all those ones are probably gonna have a little tough time because I wouldn't say most, but a lot of their shoppers are middle-class people. So they're earning less. They're not buying as much as they used to. So I think that's for the first question. Only the ultra luxury is still there, but other ones. And if you look at Rolex price in Hong Kong, which is one of their sales center, most important sales center in the world, went down, I think 10 to 20%, or some pieces even went down 30%. So that's a very special signal to tell you the Chinese consumption pattern. And also if you look at Macau, so normally when the central bank loses credit, people go to the casinos in Macau, their revenue goes skyrocketing. But this time, no. So I think we need to wait a little bit more time to see the full impact. But that's the situation right now. And for the second question, for e-commerce, it's actually going very well. Because so what China now, people in China now are doing is this kind of, I don't know how to translate it, but it's sort of like live video selling. So it's selling on TikTok, selling on, for all the Chinese softwares like Momo, like TikTok, I mean the Chinese version of TikTok, like Alibaba, like JD, like Pinduoduo, like all those ones, they now do live video selling. So you have celebrities, you have top sellers going what we're doing right now, and you have I don't know, 10 million people watching you over there, and you sell for example, this is like Fiji water. It drinks really well. It's like one of the best water in the world. Buy right now. And you can click the link on the live video, for example, on Zoom, on their like live video channels, and buy it. It's been doing really, really well. That's the like major, the biggest trend in Chinese online shopping, e-commerce right now. So to give you an example, like the top sellers on Alibaba, on Tmall, they do like one session, normally like 1 hour. Their sales can go up to like 20 million US dollars. They sell anything. They sell like from like cosmetics to food to like even rockets. Somebody sold like a rocket, 15 million on a live video, like a selling event. So that's the I would say currently the biggest trend in China, and probably like the like it's gonna be the biggest trend in the next like 1 or 2 years. So it's kind of like an evolving trend. So when back in like 2011, 2012, there was the first wave of Chinese online sellers who were like models, who are like celebrities, and they started their stores on Taobao. And I think one company went public on NYSE called Ruhan, RUHAN, if you want to Google it. And so they were making their own products, selling on Taobao pages. And 3 years ago or 2 years ago, they started to switch from just pictures to live video. And thanks to 5G, I think it's going to be a bigger trend in the next 1 or 2 years. So that's the major trend. And the second trend is selling overseas. So AliExpress is actually the fastest growing sector for Alibaba. I think their like annual growth is like 70% last year, 70, 80, something like that. And to like Russia, to the Middle East, to all these countries. So those two are the major trends in China.
Earlier, you were telling me that the e-commerce in China the competition is pretty much fierce.
Yes.
So what are companies doing? I mean, if the only thing that we know about is probably the flagship names, the Alibabas, the Baidus of the world, the JD.com. Probably wish that since that you're an investor, and that basically is cross-border selling almost to a certain extent.
Yeah, I mean, the competition is extremely fierce. So in order to, I think like back then, back in like what I was saying, like 2011, 2012, you got a chance to start a business and start a platform and really grow it. Like the celebrities I talked about. I mean, the online influencers I talked about. The like Wish also started at that time, and back then the traffic was cheap and not that much competition over there. But recently the competition is incredible. So if you sell something like 30% margin, somebody within 1 month will go for 25. Second month go for 20%, then go for like 10%, and people start to sell at negative margin just to squeeze you out. It's incredible. And then you went into sort of like an arms race. You need to raise more money, and you need to like stay alive until like other people die. So that's kind of bad. The only ones that really made it in the past, I would say like 3 or 4 years, are first those ones that connected with the internet giants in China. For example, Pinduoduo. They grew on WeChat channel, so they sell like on WeChat platform, and they got investment from Tencent. So it was a strategy for Tencent, like strategic investment for Tencent to combat Alibaba. So they bet on Meituan, which is like which started as the food delivery company like DoorDash or Uber Eats, but now grows into everything. And they bet on JD.com, they bet on Pinduoduo. So they're using the huge traffic from Tencent to support these companies. And once you were in the Tencent circle, you got unlimited traffic and you got the resources, you can combat Alibaba. You can survive. So these companies, they all succeeded. They went public, like JD, like Meituan went public on Hong Kong Exchange. Now they're at, I'm not sure about their newest number, but something like 60 billion, 70 billion US dollars market cap. And Pinduoduo also like 60 billion, 70 billion market cap, something like that. So these were the companies. So that's choice one. Cooperate with Tencent. And choice two, go for the less competition area where a lot of some companies, they succeeded, like Jolly Chic. I think people, you guys in the Middle East know it much better. And like a Shein, they started by being the first wave of sellers to sell overseas with Chinese goods from like the Chinese factories. There were not that much competition. So if you look at the battlefield, like 90% of the people were like battling within Chinese market, which is huge, like 1.4 billion population. But if you look at the number, only 10% went overseas, and then they succeeded. And back in China, out of the 1.4 billion people, only like 800 million to 900 million people use the internet. Yes, we have 500 million to 600 million people do not use the internet. And out of the 800 million to 900 million people who use the internet, people who make more than $700 per month, that is almost like just around like $9,000 per year, is only 25%. So we only have 200 million people. I mean, which is a lot, but still, like compared with the total population, it's not that much. We only have 200 million people make more than 9,000 US dollars per year. So you are actually trying to compete for that demographic. So that's why it's quite hard.
Every time we talk about China, the numbers are actually staggering. Like it's huge. You talk about 200 million people, you're almost talking about 70% of the US having.
Yeah, that's
that's pretty big.
Well, that's why I do think, sorry, just one more point. That's why I do think if you can, even for like Middle East sellers, so US sellers, if you can find something to sell in China, for example, like Wish, they're selling very cheap stuff to like Volva, they're selling very cheap stuff to Europe, to USA, but like vice versa, if you can find a way to sell very selective but cheap good stuff from like the Middle East, from Europe, from USA, from South America to China, you catch the biggest market. And I do think that's an opportunity, because if you look at like Pinduoduo, their demographic, they have money, but they have never been overseas. Out of the like 1.4 billion population, only like 100 million, 150 million have passport, have been overseas. So 90% of the Chinese population have never been overseas at all. So if you can like offer some kind of like a local Middle East, a local US, local South American stuff, and at a not very expensive price, and catch the Chinese market for those people who have never been overseas but are willing to try the good stuff, and but they cannot afford like a very expensive one. So if you can sell something like $10, it's like a huge market. I think that's like something people can try because there's still blank in China.
I think by the end of this session, we might just quickly develop something on, I don't know, just develop something.
Probably.
Have the crowd coming on board, and then all of us will start selling to China. I mean, the numbers are huge. Talking about 100 million, it's a big number. Well, thanks for the highlight, Am. And actually, my question to you is more about, give us some numbers. How have you been helping companies to grow? And are we pretty much focused on Egypt or somewhere else? What's different about Expand Card?
Yeah, so yeah, actually, we operate in the Middle East. We have thousands of customers from over 40 countries, mainly the Middle Eastern countries. So our top countries, of course, are Gulf countries and Egypt. So we have a lot of customers that we helped over the past period to grow their sales online. So for example, like we had retailers that was already on our platform, but during this events, for example, in April, one of our stores in the Middle East was able to generate over $2 million of revenue only on one store. So that was pretty impressive, because people are pivoting, as I mentioned, to buy their goods online, essential and also luxury goods that they need for entertainment and filling their time. So in terms of retailers that we have, almost all their sales have tripled in numbers in April and March. Also, we was able to onboard new sellers quickly and help them continue their sales online. So we had some retailers that we was able to onboard and get them up and running in just 48 hours. And they was able to generate sales the next day they launch it. So because they have already the consumers waiting for them to open. Once they open their online store online, the next day they was able to generate $10,000 only in one day with their existing customer base. So that is also pretty impressive, that we can see stores can get up and running in a very short time and get sales the next day they open. So in terms also of for entrepreneurs and people that wants to start their online business, we was also able to help many youth and founders and entrepreneurs to start their business, especially in Saudi Arabia, to start their business online, because we have unique apps that no other platform in the Middle East have, that helps sellers to drop ship products from AliExpress. For example, as Frank said, their sales are going so high, especially selling cross-border. So people can use our unique app to grab products from AliExpress, list them on their online store, and start selling. And once they get an order, they can fulfill it from AliExpress without having to have any capital, upfront capital, or any stock. And we was able to help those merchants start from zero to 100,000 US dollars of revenue only in a matter of like 2 or 3 months, the past 2 and 3 months. So starting an online business right now is the way they was able to recover and generate sales online. And as Vibhu said, that window shopping is decreased and traffic in malls is decreased, but on the other side, the traffic online has increased, and something like video selling that is happening in China, it's also happening here in the Middle East, selling on social media, on Facebook Shop, Instagram Shop, Google Shopping, which is features that our platform can support, and that's why we can see easily the patterns of entrepreneurs starting their online store in like one day, and in 1 week they can generate $1,000 US of revenue using just drop shipped products without any upfront capital. And as I mentioned, for retailers, the revenue is much more doubled, because they already have a customer base that wants their products, especially if it's essential products like groceries, FMCG goods, and medical supplies. Yeah, so you're muted.
Yeah, we lost you for a minute, but it's okay.
Okay.
I'll take some of the questions that I'm receiving from our audience. So one of the questions was actually going out to Vibo, and it is people are asking like, will we see beta in Saudi?
Yeah, I usually don't share future plans, but we were supposed to open there this year. That's news that we haven't shared that yet. However, because of this situation, a lot of our expansion plans broadly globally have been placed on hold probably till 2021. But we are going to be in Saudi sometime soon, and we'd love to be there.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and with e-commerce, can you please talk about the short-term stress on the logistics industry? As the question says, basically, as we see in Saudi Arabia, there is a real big delay with deliveries, even though we have more than 5 last mile companies doing the last mile deliveries.
Yeah, so I agree. There's, of course, there is delays in deliveries in general, like in most of the countries, because of course the restrictions on movement and the huge number of shipments that is ordered daily. So some of the stores are actually like Amazon, of course, actually focusing on essential goods and prioritizing them over non-essential goods. So I think that's yes, this is a challenge that we are facing. And but by the way, there is so much more than 5 in Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is very mature in terms of last mile delivery and shipping in general. They have so many platforms that all of them we have integrations with. But I think the response to this challenge is number one, consumers tend to be more understandable to delays right now. Just make sure you explain this on your website. You have like a announcement or a notification to your customers about expected delays. And I'm sure consumers are now much more understandable for delays. We can see this because actually, like they are at home, they can wait a little longer. They understand the situation and the stress, so they have no issue with this. And the second thing is that you can also do is to prioritize your essential goods to be prioritized first, because this will give your customer more trust, and you'll be able to support their essential needs much better. The other thing is that you can what you can also do is you have to integrate with multiple last mile delivery companies, and you start sending different shipments to different couriers or providers based on your needs, and that will guarantee a much more success rate for your deliveries, and at the same time a shorter delivery time for your consumers.
Yifan, I remember that we had one of the points which actually just reminded me with the question talking about the policies in China and what's happening, basically what the new policies that has been implemented post COVID-19, as well as there's another angle, because since you've been an investor, I think you'll have a very sensitive eye for this, which is, and that's a pretty straight question. If there's an e-commerce company that has the logistics capabilities, i.e., something similar to, I mean, what eventually evolved as Amazon and Alibaba, do they stand a chance today, or as you probably earlier you were saying, that they're better off basically focusing on one area and trying to grow in it.
You mean for Chinese market?
Yes, mainly for Chinese market, and then we'll basically circulate this around.
I think for Chinese market, if you want to do something like Alibaba or like Amazon, is not possible. It's just economies of scale is too different. The same money you can buy you can acquire one user right now. Probably they use the same money to acquire like 100 users back then. So I think that chance has passed. But there are gonna be some new forms of ways to new forms of like platforms, like I just mentioned the live video selling, something like that. So, but I don't think they had the chance to become as big as Alibaba or Amazon, because they are not pure like e-commerce site right now. They're pretty much like infrastructure for the whole like online retailing system, ecosystem. So like Ali Cloud, like Amazon AWS, all their warehouses, logistics, all those stuffs, it's impossible for a new company to do, I think. You're still on mute.
This goes forever, man. What about China? What do you think is going to happen in 2021? So how does China, what's the forecast? I mean, how do you see China in 2021?
Well, I think 2021, after the vaccine, after we got the vaccine, I think we're gonna see like the economy fully back. So
hold on a second. Are you saying that there is a vaccine out already?
No, I'm saying like,
you know, like everybody talks about conspiracy nowadays, so we might as well highlight that.
All right, so there's one Chinese company called Cansino or Cansino. I don't know how they say their English name, but CANSINO. They're the Chinese company that are working on the vaccine, and they're trying to deliver by the end of this year. But even if they don't succeed, probably they can do something like next year. So I do think by the time we have the vaccine, it's gonna take a little while for everybody to get inoculated. Maybe another like 1 year or something. But then like the economy will be fully back. But for this year and next year, I think it depends on the policy. The Chinese economy is a very policy-oriented economy. We're gonna have the annual Congress the last week in May. So after that, I think we're gonna see a lot of stimulus packages in June, because like export is down. So for consumption, like we don't have, like, people are earning less money. So I think that there are gonna be a lot of like infrastructure, government-led infrastructure investment, and there are going to be a lot of like consumption stimulus packages. So probably my best guess is they're gonna go. They could not go into real estate, which is what they used in every crisis in the past like 15 years. So this time they cannot go into that because the leverage is too high, housing prices too high. Probably they will go into like cars and other consumptions, which is good for the Middle East countries, because that's gonna drive the oil price up. But I do think that's the best. That's my best guess. That's the only the big part that involves consumption, involves like a lot of employment, and it involves like a major GDP driver. So that's my best guess. But
Yeah.
I would say like by 2021, the economy is going to be fully back. If not fully, but like 90%. This year is going to be bad. This year, I don't think they're even going to give like a GDP number they want to achieve.
Okay. Okay. Vivo, US 2021 and towards the end of this year, and how would Beta survive and weather the storm?
Well, that's a very optimistic view. You know, I have an opinion about this. It's probably a little bit, I don't know if it's controversial, but just different. You know, I think the market was already starting to turn pre-COVID, and you know, there was a lot of changes happening in the global markets already. You had a lot of debt. You had obviously our markets at pretty much all-time highs. But you started to see like a lot of foreign investment starting to dry up, and things were changing probably as early as Q3 last year. And I think this is, like I said before, I think this accelerated some of the fundamental changes that were already happening. But I think we were, you know, at least our company, we're already starting to think about what does this look like during a recession. And, you know, I think we are yet to really see all of the effects of what's happening. You know, here in the US, we have, I think April unemployment just got published and it was 15% in the US. Like these are the the highest unemployment since the Great Depression in the 1930s. And, you know, when you're right at the beginning of it, it doesn't feel too scary. You know, the government's holding up the economy in a bunch of places through these, you know, historic, I don't know how familiar your audience is with the PPP and some of the crazy stimulus programs that the government's been putting out, but those are not going to last forever. And that money is, it doesn't exist. It's being created. And that will have impacts on the country that are longer term. And I think the unemployment in particular, you know, I think there are some things that for a retailer like us, maybe we can look forward to in terms of having readily available talent, you know, and people who are really good and ready to work. And that's been, you know, in a bull market, it's really hard to find good people. Everyone has lots of options. But we've been preparing for this in some ways. I think obviously we couldn't have imagined the severity of the situation, but you know, in our models, like we are expecting overall activity to be down by some percentages, even in 2021. I think you're going to see, I don't think you see 100% recovery because I think the market outside of COVID was ready to get to a different place anyway. That being said, again, you know, there will be some companies that emerge from this that, like any recession, like in 2008 and 2001, like there are amazing companies and opportunities that are seen in these times. And a lot of those companies are going to be found in the next 18 months, I believe. Or you know, some companies who've been building quietly for the last couple of years, maybe this is the moment for them to find their market. And, you know, I don't have I can't offer advice for every type of company, but for us, we're very hopeful that we'll be one of those companies that's resilient. We've been, you know, our model was built to make retail accessible, and accessible is a keyword for affordable as well. And we want small brands to be able to affordably reach a really large audience. And I think more than ever in 2021, you're going to need those kind of solutions, and brands are going to be looking for that. You know, I think for one of the other things that wasn't mentioned here is that ad prices dropped dramatically. So you have a lot of companies able to do customer acquisition for half the price or less. And so, you know, I expect that to continue through 2021 as well. I don't see that market recovering fully that quickly. But these are changes that needed to happen in many places. You know, here in the US, we're very over retailed. We have too many stores, too much square footage. We have too much duplication of you know, product availability, things like that. You know, I guess we're cautiously optimistic that that some of the nature of this will be good for our company. I think overall it's going to be tough, but if you're a contrarian and you're thinking, ahead, I think there'll be some really interesting places to take some bets that post 2021 can have a lot of upside.
Okay, Amr, getting to you, moving. So COVID had happened already. You've been seeing some shift happening, and I believe you were one of the companies that benefited actually out of this pandemic. How do you see it moving forward next year and the year after? Especially that you are trying to operate in different markets, and with your unique relationship with the likes of AliExpress.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, like we of course we operate in different countries, and because of the situation, of course, like definitely this year we will see some like recession in some countries, especially like Gulf countries that was relying on like oil trades and oil prices, and also Egypt, because there was so relying on tourism and like some sort of activities that are now like almost stopped. So definitely the purchase power will decline, but as I mentioned, it will be shifted to the remaining purchase power will be shifted to online, and that means online retail will thrive in 2020. And I believe retailers can still achieve their targets, or a big part of their targets in 2020, by leveraging online as their main selling channel. And to do that, they have to be in control with the same capabilities that they control their offline store. They need to control their online store also. So they really need to pick the platform and that can support their needs, and also have the team, their team available, and have like new workflows and processes to work with online retail. So I think in after that, like in 2021, offline retail will mostly like recover slowly. I'm not sure like when exactly can be back to normal, but I think yeah, it's like 2 or 3 years, like folks have said. So I think online retails is going to like grow with an like aggressive growth over the coming 8 to 9 months, and after that it will grow steadily for at least the next 5 years, which means that we will see new solutions, and they can see that from our partners, that they have new solutions. They are scaling their companies to be able to handle shipping, payment, fulfillment solutions, and of course e-commerce to be able to acquire this shift to online and help people continue their business. And also solutions like drop shipping, and I'm sure it will thrive over the next period, because it will also allow people to open an online business and generate profits that they will mostly need in this year. So generally, I think e-commerce will thrive. Of course, we will have recession and lower purchase power, but to be able to recover as much as we can, online is the way.
So since you mentioned actually a weaker purchase power, two things here. One, tell me about some numbers from the time that you invested several months back and now the growth that you have been seeing in Expand Card. Two, are you considering relationships with fintech platforms? Someone who basically can have some stuff like buy now, pay later stuff like that.
Sure, absolutely. So the growth in sales, as I mentioned, the purchasing power in general, like in retail plus offline retail plus online retail, yes, the total is definitely less. But in online specifically, we are seeing like a huge growth. As I mentioned in Expand Cart, our like merchants GMV have almost like tripled over the last couple of months. So that's pretty impressive. And we have seen like single merchants that can make $300,000 only with like 2 or 3 team members in their company. So that's pretty nice for them. And also we have seen growing potential for things that was not really focusing on online business, like groceries and FMCG goods and medical supplies. But in this period, their sales are like sky high in the past couple of months, and that's why we think this will continue like in the coming months. And coming to,
one thing here, if I get an Expand Cart,
yes.
What markets am I exposed to? Do you expose me to different markets as soon as I get on the platform?
Yes, absolutely. So you can virtually sell your products everywhere, and we have apps to support this. We have unique apps that are not available on any other platforms that can support selling in multiple countries with multiple currencies, and you have different offers and products in multiple countries. And of course, we have integrations with shipping, fulfillment, and payment solutions from almost all Middle Eastern countries, including countries that nobody operates in, like Libya, Sudan, Iraq, like so many countries. So we have almost all the payment and shipping covered. And that's coming back to your question about fintech partnerships. Yes, that's something we are working on, to find financing solutions for 2 parties. First, our merchants. We are trying to find financing solutions to our merchants to help them source products, stock products, and sell. And also financing solutions to shoppers to be able to pay their product price using installments, which is something that it's trending, especially in countries like Egypt. We have many startups that are offering installment services, such as like Valeo and other also banks in Egypt, like MBE and so on. So yes, these solutions will mostly thrive also over the coming year, and we are partnering with almost all the players in the Middle East.
Perfect. Well, thank you for your time. Last question, I'd actually go for Vibo. Last month, we've all heard that the Public Investment Fund, the Sovereign Wealth Fund of Saudi Arabia, have acquired a significant stake in Related. Related operates Hudson Yards, which actually accommodates a couple of spaces having Beta as a tenant. Tell us what you think about the project itself first, and then your thoughts of this kind of move by Public Investment Fund. I know this is away, but we're almost wrapping up this session.
Sure. Yeah. So Related, we work with most of the top landlords in the U.S. in some way with stores, and Related has been one of the most innovative landlords of the last couple decades. They've really early on saw the use case for commercial real estate changing from shopping to entertainment and to experiential. And so they own Equinox, Full Cycle, a bunch of concepts themselves. And when they went to open Hudson Yards, we signed a lease with them there really before it was built. We just, we knew that they'd done it. They could do a great job with curation and making a shopping center feel like something different and something built for a younger audience. Our stores at Hudson Yards were by far the best stores in our portfolio. I think last year we saw 600,000 people in our Beta Hudson Yards store, which is, insane. And if you've been to that store in New York City, you'll know that it's always full. There's always people there, and at least in the past there was. And I think for a lot of sovereign wealth funds or related funds are highly exposed to real estate and commercial real estate in particular. Many governments or pension funds are co-owners of some of the largest landlords or largest centers globally. And this is such a unique time in history to invest in commercial real estate, because I think it's, if you believe that this is a temporary situation, a lot of these companies, privately or publicly, are, their market cap, their valuations are down by significant amount, and so I think for PIF to buy low here on something that probably is a very temporary moment of distress in a really amazing landlord and some like really generational real estate is really smart. And this is, if you look past the situation, and if you're a contrarian, I think this is such an interesting time to get involved in retail and make a bet that could have a big payoff. So I love to see it, and I would not be surprised in the least to see a lot more investments from PIF and other sovereign wealth funds in commercial real estate right now, because it's such a distressed market, and a lot of these companies can't afford to think more than a couple of years, but if you're a sovereign wealth fund, you can afford to think for decades, and you have to believe that over a decade's time span, these assets are going to be really meaningful and valuable.
Thank you. Yifan, as an investor, what are you looking for now and moving forward? Like certain sectors that you're focused on, or especially that now and I know that you're investing in the US and China, and there's some kind of there is tension. There's always like, what's going on? But what's your plan?
Yeah, I mean, like, do you mean by like retailing related or just in general? All right, you're on mute, but I guess you said in general.
This is not gonna end, man. Yes.
Yeah, so I think because we do both like private market, public market, real estate, everything. So for private market side, private investment, I do think actually within the next 1 or 2 years, it's a very good timing to invest, because it's at these times, these hard times, that same amount of money can buy more users, can buy more advertisements, and can do much more. Like like you spend the same money on like say 2017, you probably can use that money to buy like 10 times the users back in like 2010, something like that. So that's why you see like Airbnb, Uber, all those companies, they came out of like the financial crisis. So I do think for the next 1 or 2 years, it's going to be a great timing to invest. I would say the best sector, not the best, like the sectors I'm looking into are Internet of Things. That's one. And like this kind of like Google Home, Alexa related. I think they are the new entry interface for the like next level, next generation, anything like retailing, all those gadgets, stuff like that. And space technology, anything related to that. So I think those are the ones. And I'm looking into for public market. I actually think Chinese market and Hong Kong market will have a bull market, because Chinese market is a lot about the policies. So after the loosening of the credit, you're gonna see like a huge run for the Chinese market, and also because starting now they lifted the ban for not the ban, like the limit for foreign capital can go into the Chinese market. So that's gonna have you can see a huge money flow into that. So all those funds like Bridgewater, all those ones are setting up their entities in China. And also because of the the hard relationship between China and US right now. You see all these companies like JD, like Ctrip going back to get listed in Hong Kong. So that's gonna make Hong Kong become Chinese NASDAQ. And I think you will see like a NASDAQ pattern run in the Hong Kong market within the next couple of years. So I think those are the best opportunities. That aside, like nobody knows what's going on, how long this virus is gonna last. So I think better just reserve more cash and wait for better opportunities. But I do think for the entrepreneurs and both online retailing and offline retailing, I mean traditional retailing, the best timing to go into the field is gonna be this year and next year when everything is cheap. A lot of competitors are out, and but people still need the consumption. They still need to buy stuff. Maybe like they shift from like people buy more like home oriented, like Wayfair, those kind of stuffs. But those are the opportunities right there.
Well, I
Yeah,
mean,
you could not imagine the kinds of deals that landlords are going to surface in the next 18 months. Even starting now, I just had a call this morning. I won't mention the name, but very prominent landlord in San Francisco, and I think there's going to be more space available than ever, and the business models between tenants and landlords are going to be super, super creative. And I think the entire idea of a lease is being thrown out the window. You're going to see tons of more cooperation, and I've been thinking a lot about how to take advantage. I haven't figured it out yet, but if you could be ready, there's going to be incredible space and opportunities available there too, offline. Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, great. Well, so before I let you go, I mean, we spent an hour and 15 minutes. I've been doing all the kind of production and geeks, and obviously a lot of glitches happening. And then basically a significant number out of Saudi, Kuwait, and other GCC countries.
Yes.
So we're moving to, it's charity time.
Yeah.
So are we able to get a code out of you for people who are planning to basically have an online store on Expand Card? You don't have to do it now.
Their online business with the lowest cost possible, especially in this situations. So sure, absolutely, I'll be happy and honored to send you the code after the call to share it with the audience.
Well, thank you, guys. I think we've almost 15 minutes beyond. Oh.
Nice. You have the code ready.
Yeah. So thank you, Vivo. Thank you, Ifan. Thank you, Amr. Thanks for all the audience who've been online with us today. I mean, I really enjoyed this. This is my first live session, so I'm really sorry if there's a lot of mistakes. Mute, unmute. I think at least now I know that I have to have at least one more guy. I mean, assistant or something, just managing this mess that I've been making. So I'm really sorry if there has been any kind of mess. Thank you for joining today, and have a good day. Have a good evening for our audience in the Middle East.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. You're most welcome.
Thank you.